Hi, we're back again, and I'd like to offer some thoughts about the term partiality or the verb I show partiality. These words are important in both Testaments, so let's get started here. The, the Greek word for partiality really is derived from Hebrew with two words. We have the Greek word lambano, that means I take or receive. We had that way back in chapter 1. In chapter 2, we had the noun prosopon, that means face or presence. Now, the singular noun, act of favoritism, and here we have it right here, and this is a combination of these two words. Prosopalempsia. And that's called partiality. And the verb, I show favoritism, prosopalempteo. And this is found in James 2. Now, these are not found in secular Greek, but they're based upon the compound from the Septuagint. And it goes back to the Hebrew, nasa panim, that means literally to lift the face of someone. In the Old Testament, this word family can express simply respectful greetings or granting a request. But more frequently, it's used in negative contexts of favoritism. And such partiality contradicts the very nature of God, who is impartial. He accepts no bribes. For the Lord our God, there is no injustice or partiality or bribery. Now notice how all three things belong together: injustice, partiality, and bribery. And then God calls upon his people to mirror his impartiality with numerous prohibitions that are framed so often in judicial contexts, where the powerful are the ones who are able to pay off judges to make pronouncements in their favor. We have the Middle Eastern language of the bribe. I well remember when our family was in Beirut, Lebanon, the second time we went over there, we had bought a new Willys Jeep. I think the only new car that our family ever owned. And when this Willys Jeep got to the port of Beirut, it stood there in port for 6 months, waiting for my dad to pay off a bribe to the customs official so that the Jeep could be released for our family and missionary use. The writings of the New Testament and apostolic fathers underscore the gravity of this sin, since God's very nature and actions are impartial. And just take a look at the text there, from 1 Peter to Romans 2, Ephesians 6, and Colossians 3. No partiality with God. He's not one to court favors. Some other texts here, Colossians 3, there's no partiality. Acts 10, God is not partial. And we also find the words from the apostolic fathers, you shall not lift the face. That means to be partial. And here we have the Greek words, ou lempse prosopon, you shall not lift the face. We find it in the Didache, Epistle of Barnabas, keeping away from all partiality. And then Polycarp in his letter. 1 Clement, do all things without partiality. Here we have what's called an alpha privative, where the alpha on the front negates a word. So prosopalemptos means partially, and the alpha on the front simply negates it, without or no partiality. And from Barnabas 4:12, for the Lord judges the earth without partiality. Again, we have another alpha privative. Just like in English, we have the prefix un that is attached to words like the word like becomes unlike. The prefix un simply negates a word. That's what the alpha does. So without partiality, there has the alpha on the front. In James 2, there's a stinging indictment on the community's partiality. James 2:1, my brothers and sisters, stop holding the trust of our glorious Lord Jesus Christ with acts of favoritism. And here's the Greek word, prosopolempsiais, with acts of favoritism. And later on in the same chapter, but if you show partiality, here's the verb here, prosopolempteta, you commit sin. Now, a few implications here. While the context of James 2 deals with the tension and treatment of both the rich and the poor, and I would think particularly here in James 2, in judicial settings, partiality in our day has so many faces. For example, a simple look at a person can mean so much and can communicate so much. It has to do with a look at the rich and the poor. Partiality can be expressed by people with high position educationally or a position in life. We can only think of consumerism in America as if the image makes the person. My wife teaches in a public high school, and you better believe it that brand names are so important for the high school students that she teaches, as if the brand name makes a person. Partiality is also reflected in race relationships in terms of not only race but ethnicity as well. We have gender partiality both in the secular world and the church positions in ministry. We have partiality expressed in terms of social injustice in a context of prejudice. Prejudice more often than not deals with internal attitudes that we have towards others that then leads to acts of discrimination or partiality. And what James is after, and what God is after, and what Jesus is after is that the people of God are people who extend a genuine welcome, invitation, hospitality to visitors at their faith community, without regard to position, without regard to race, without regard to gender, without regard to position, station in life, wealth or poverty, white or black, etc., etc., etc. The people of God are to be a welcoming people who exhibit no partiality. Thanks so much.